What's up, guys? Bill here. Welcome back to another trade review video. Today I'm going to talk about two trades I did. One on Qs earlier in the day, one on SPY a little later in the day. And let's jump right in. If you watched my video from yesterday, I pointed out something kind of interesting about Webull and the way that it captures these dark pool prints in pre-market often and after hours as well. These kind of crazy prints that can often be useful later in the day. So if we look here on QQQ, we can see that the bottom wick here, which I ended up I usually mark them with like light blue or dark blue dashed lines like dark pools, and I just make them skinnier because I don't know how much they're worth or whatever if they're as big as the ones I normally mark. But I ended up removing it because look what it ended up being. It ended up being our opening range low, basically. And I'll show you on SPY later how useful this level was, but you can see on Qs, one, it ends up being opening range low, which is a great level. I always mark my opening range here, 15 minutes. Eventually we lose this level and get a nice flush down to fill the gap up. And then later we reclaim it and we're protecting it and get another leg up after that, all from where this wick was in pre-market. So definitely, if you use Webull, keep an eye on these and keep them marked at the very least to just kind of watch how price reacts around them. And then once you get more comfortable with that, you can take trades based around that or use it for scale targets or things like that. But let's jump in here. Once I had the opening range set, you can see that we had a lot of chop here on Qs and SPY. Not super surprising with Google and Microsoft and other Snap and other large companies reporting after hours. I figured it was going to be a little indecisive early on in the day. And when there's periods of consolidation like that, whether it's right off the open or later on in the day, you kind of have, the way I approach it is you kind of have two options. You can just wait till it breaks to one side and then retest and you can play that. Or you can try to use other, hints that maybe price is giving you or things like flow or other data to try to help you make an an educated guess as to which way this consolidation is going to break and then try to get your entry on the opposite side. So for instance, today on Qs, I started to see enough things that I thought that we were going to break to the upside. So that means I want to try to get in closer to the bottom of the range as possible. Now, we were already about to here in the day on this candle when I started to think, you know what? I think it's going to break to the upside. So let me try to get in. And here's some of the reasons why I did. Okay. First, if you switch to the higher time frame, like a 15, look at all these two big wicks, right? See, I was probably in around here on that third wick down. These two big wicks had caught my attention, okay? Another thing that had caught my attention was market net flow. Early around this time in the day, this was happening. Calls surging, puts dying off, okay? There was also a major ZGEX pull, 0DT GEX, on SPY early in the day, on Qs early in the day to 360. See this? Huge pull down, right? All the other levels were flat, really doing nothing. And this huge gamma magnet pull was happening on the 360 level, 360, and it was just growing and growing and growing. So we were around here on the chart. I said, okay, I need to figure out a place to get in. I was actually a little bit impatient and I didn't want to wait till we tested the exact bottom of the range. We'd already bounced off there a couple times. So what I did was I drew a fib on the range we had and I waited till we touched the 618. So I got in right here and we wicked down a little bit more, but nothing too crazy, right? And then immediately one nice stick up. I took a big scale at the top of the opening range because, hey, that's where we've been topping out, multiple times already. So big scale here. And if we got a huge breakout after that, great. Here's our 360 target from the 0DT GEX. We end up hitting that. I'm out 90% there and then eventually get stopped back. Break even on the rest. I played the zero. So, the theta starts to eat. This whole move took, this move was real quick and I was out a decent amount of my contracts. Then the next, just the next little dollar takes another 30 minutes, right? So theta's starting to eat. And when they flushed it hard there, kind of sweeping the highs a little bit, and that 0DT GEX magnet snapped back, right? I've talked about this a lot. When you see those negative gexes, those magnets, if they're the biggest ones and they're continually growing and they're pulling you towards it, when you finally get there, watch out for the snapback. And you can use that to your advantage in two ways. You can make sure you take a ton of profit there, or you can even sometimes look to short at those levels. Okay. So that was my first trade of the day, my main trade. And I didn't play any downside today. There was a couple good opportunities, but I just didn't catch it. The first place I started to kind of think about trying it was when we lost our opening range low here. But I like to use the 10 for my confirmation. The 5 gave you a nice confirmation retest flush, but I like to use the 10. So on the 10, you can see that we pushed a little too far away from me and didn't quite get enough of a retest there before going down and filling the gap. However, I was able to find another nice long entry, and that was here on SPY, okay? So 421, you can see the bell there. Bells are pivots on my indexes and charts, and I had this pivot set coming into the day, and I'll talk about why. First, let's look at the wicks from pre-market. So similar to how QQQ's was, but it wasn't opening range for SPY, but look where this bottom wick was, okay? I marked it there with my little dark blue dashed line like a dark pool, because I think that's what these prints are. Look at the respect here. So it's not a big move down, but you get a close and a perfect retest, and then you get your fresh lows on the day. And then once eventually we reclaim it, we retest it, and get that run into the end of the day. These levels are important, guys. But let's talk a little bit about why I bought calls down here, okay? There's a couple big reasons. One, this is a big GEX level on SPY. So what happened today on SPY? We went from one major GEX to the other, 425 to 421, span the entire range. We'd already come all the way down here. This is a big magnet. What happens when you get to big magnets? They snap back, all right? Second reason I wanted to take it, there was a ton of dark pools down here on SPY. This whole collection of dark pools over the span of the last 3 days had been building up around in a dollar range from basically 421.50 to 420.50. Okay. On top of that, right as price was moving down towards that area, here came in some more bullish dark pool prints at 420.50. Where's 420.50? Basically our previous day's closing price. Okay. So what I was looking for was coming in here and kind of sweeping this area. It is a little bigger. It's a bigger area, right? It's almost a dollar area, at least 50 cents, but I wanted to get a sweep in there for calls. Last thing I was paying attention to was all this liquidity from yesterday. End of day, big volume coming in. All this liquidity bunched up here. So my ideal execution here was first we dip below 421 and I'd load half size position. And I'm fine with a half size position, especially on 0 DTEs. But if it had kept continuing to pull, I would add full on the sweep of the previous day's closing price, that bullish dark pool print, which is just 4 cents above that. And in this area here at the end of the day, just sweep this area, I'd be in full, but we never got it, right? I got in half. We got a nice wick down. That's kind of what you want to see, you know, once you're sweeping some liquidity and you want to see that bullish dark pool print protected with that wick up. Okay. And I'll be honest, I didn't expect a V-shaped run all the way into the end of the day. So my main target when I got in here was opening range low. And I was out 100%. I scaled along the way. You had this little dark pool level. I used the EMAs and things like that. And then I was all out here and I was super happy with the trade. But obviously, you know, I could have held longer and made more. But hey, that's, you know, you're not always going to nail the top and the bottom, right? That was 130% on that when I sold the full position. So, just a nice little trade and, hopefully, you know, it can help in some ways, guys. Just like trying to find confluence, trying to find as many reasons as I can to take a trade, whether it's different types of levels like GEX and dark pools, and liquidity situations, sweeping lows and highs and fair value gaps and everything like that. Fibs, whatever I can use to just the more reasons I feel comfortable getting into trade, the better. So hopefully that helps. If you have any questions, just leave me a comment or find me on Twitter and I'll help you out.